Good evening and welcome to Tiger Talk. Not going on the radio tonight at the moment because Adrian, unfortunately, our usual host, isn't very well, so they've left it to me. I don't know why. I'm not the hostess with the mostest, but anyway, we'll see how we can get on. We're going to talk about the two games we played recently, Wrexham last Wednesday and Saturday at Millwall, and obviously talk about this Saturday's game against West Bromwich Albion. But I've got to mention our sponsor, the carmusgo.co.uk. Thanks for sponsoring us. As I say, it might go out on the radio, but if it doesn't, we've mentioned it on the podcast. Thanks to everybody for joining me, James, Chris, and Jan. Are you all right?
Good, thank you.
Good, thanks, Paul.
Yeah, I'm good, Paul. Thank you.
Good. So we'll talk about last Wednesday's game against Wrexham. I think for once it was a 90-minute game we played. I can't think of anybody who had a particularly bad game. There might have been the odd one here or there, but I thought as a team we played really well and thoroughly deserved the win. The only thing I sort of worried about was 1-0 up, and unfortunately Louis Coyle makes a mistake and they get a big chance. Could have been 1-1. They didn't deserve to be 1-1, but they could have been. And also they had a penalty, obviously. So it was a bit, the two things was a bit worrying. Kiefer Moore normally he would have put one of them away, if not both of them, I would have said, because he's quite a good striker. But I thought we played really well. And I thought one of the outstanding things was that we seemed to stick Slater on Kiefer Moore so that he didn't have chance really to do a lot. And he knocked the flicks on and we got the second ball, which was quite good. I thought that tactic worked really well. And I thought Regan Slater had a real good game. So I can't believe, the change in a team from Friday to the Wednesday. It was such a poor display on Friday against Middlesbrough. It was different again on Wednesday against Wrexham. Oh, a lot of people thought the fact it was on a good run, wasn't it? Unbeaten in 9 games. So it wasn't as though they was coming here near the bottom of the league struggling. They've come here on a good run, and we made them look very, very ordinary. Just I suppose like Middlesbrough made us look. But it was really a good display, and I don't know what you thought about it, James.
Yeah, I agree with absolutely everything you said. I mean, Regan was absolutely the man about the pitch on that Wednesday game. He was brilliant all night. I thought all the midfield was, to be honest. We really controlled the game a lot better than we did against Middlesbrough, and I think it had to be a bit of a wake up call from. I think that's been coined quite a lot at the moment, which is we've rode our luck a lot of times in games defensively, and we've lost control in midfield in games where better teams would have punished us for lacking that control, but I think we've needed a game like that, a bit of a hammering to really show to the lads that we really need to put together a performance where we're defending as a team, we're having a bit of control in the game, we can slow it down and play at our own pace, especially in front of our own fans as well, because, I think we perform better, generally speaking, at home, and the table does say that, but it just, like I say, it was a 90-minute performance. I think it's probably the first one we've actually seen this season, and I was really, really impressed with it, to be honest. We need more like that. And I think, to be fair, you could make the argument that the game after it was also a 90-minute performance, to be honest.
Yeah. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, similar. You've already touched on the midfield. Big improvement in midfield, because I think that was our sort of weak link when we played Middlesbrough. And I don't think it was just a wake-up call for the players. I think if I'm a manager that's up to that point of the season, we have rode our luck, and you're kind of not really thinking it's broken because we've not conceded, that many goals in 45 minutes, despite half a dozen games where we've already turned up for half the game. So you're not looking at it as in something's broken, we've got to fix it. But I think that will have made the manager really look and drill down on that. We've spoke many times about the amount of shots we're conceding, but shots on goal doesn't always translate to actual goals, and on that Friday game it did. So I think that the two games we've had since then, Wrexham and Millwall, the whole team's performance is massively improved. There seems to be a bit more of a focus around the defensive structure and finding that balance between defence and attack, and the tactics against Wrexham to keep Kiefer Moore quiet and as you say, make them look quite ordinary. And apart from the penalty and Kiefer Moore dragging his shot wide, they didn't have much, and we controlled most of the game. So yeah, brilliant turnaround in performance from last Friday at Middlesbrough.
What do you think then, Jan? What was your take on the match?
Well, on Wednesday, I wanted to say that's the best we've played all season. And it probably, as you said, over 90 minutes. But Wrexham were poor. I'm not saying they're a poor side. I'm not going to, I'm not one of these that's going to say that's the worst team we've played, because we all have games like that. We've had games like that. But I came away really confident. And then we went to Millwall. And then first 5 minutes, I said to John, oh, blimey, this is like the Alamo. It's going to be horrendous, is this? But I don't know whether, because they came out like all guns blazing, it maybe sort of woke us up thinking, right, we're going to have to go faster and press. And we did. And we thoroughly deserved both wins, I would say. And on Saturday, we absolutely deserved both wins. Yeah, we rode our luck with maybe the sending off, but blimey, the luck's not been with us all season. We've been on the wrong end of some shocking decisions this season. And that was a straight red card if I've ever seen one. And yeah, maybe wrong. But I thought, they played really, really well. I worried a bit when they scored, and then when we put, not when McBurney came on, but when the other two subs came on, I thought, oh, this is going as well. But then once we got the third, it was only ever going to be us, wasn't it? It was great, and it took 2 hours to get through London, because obviously you're at the other side of London, aren't you? And it would have been a horrendous journey, even if we'd have drawn after being up like that. So everybody was very buoyant.
Yeah, I thought on the Wednesday, Joseph had a really good game as well. I mean, he always runs about, but he got the goal, and it was where he was. He doesn't seem to do that, and he hasn't seemed to do it up to about Wednesday. Be in the right position, and I know he nearly fluffed it. I mean, the keeper's hit his leg and gone in, but it was there, which I think was good. And obviously Matt Bainey come on and got a really good goal, another assist for Giles. I just thought all round as a team we played really well on Wednesday night, and I can't believe the difference. And I think he's been a bit crafty them. I don't know if he has, but I felt he has with Adey, because he was really poor against Middlesbrough. He probably had his worst game for us. And most people I would have thought Egan would come in for him because he was so poor. But I think he's been a bit crafty and thought, well, he's going to the African nations. We'll give him the next 2 games because we don't want Egan getting injured, because obviously we're a bit light at the back. With him not there, we've got Femwe was in, and obviously got McCarthy, but he had a bit of a baptism of fire against Blackburn, didn't he? So his basic defender was going to have his Egan. I think he's been a bit crafty and thought, I'm going to play him. If he gets injured, well, he can't go to the African Nations Cup. Obviously he was hoping he plays well, and obviously it kept Egan back so that if he doesn't get injured, because obviously I think it would put a lot of pressure on us if we lost Egan or Hughes at the moment. We haven't got a lot of backup, and obviously, Jai, if with him going there, I mean, it's about 3 or 4 weeks I think they're there for, isn't it? So he's going to miss a few games. I know one of them's a cup game, obviously, but I think he's been a little bit crafty, to be quite honest. And I was looking at his win ratio, the manager, and apart from his last time in Turkey, he's got quite a high win ratio. I think some of them was in the 67s and 59s. So it's obviously, well, we didn't know him before he came here, but out of wherever he's been, he's done quite well. And obviously, his win ratios here is excellent, really. With the team he's basically had all season, he hasn't had what he'd probably consider and what we'd consider his strongest team available at all. And it doesn't look as though he's going to get it for a good while. But he's done really well with them. And I heard somewhere that he'd had a word with Giles because he couldn't believe somebody would pay, I think, $5 billion for. Nobody seemed to want. And he's obviously made a lot of difference with Giles because he's come on leaps and bounds. It's one of my worries that we lose him in January as much as out else, because it's showing the potential that he had before he came here, and he's playing really well. I mean, some of them balls in are absolutely unbelievable. I think I said to Adrian against Wrexham, if Harry Kane had been playing, he'd have probably had a hat-trick in the first half. The number of balls he put right on the spot, it's unbelievable. So, that's one of my worries, that we might lose somebody like a Giles, which, we'll talk about later, but I don't know what you think about it. James, we'll go
I
to
don't
you
think
first.
he'll go.
Yeah, what I consider about players like McBurney and Giles, I mean, McBurney as well is another one who's been rumoured to be getting sniffed around in January. And I think, when you're at the later stage of your career as a striker and, you've had you can be sort of classified as a purple patch player to an extent. Apart from that one season he had at Swansea where I think he scored like 18 or 19 goals or something in the Championship. I think his best scoring season since then was like 8 goals or something like that. And I think that was in the Premier League for Sheffield United. But when you're at that point in your career and he's just come back from abroad, he's back living in Yorkshire and he's kind of around his family. And I think the same with Giles. It'd be too big of a risk for the player as well to go somewhere and have to hope that they're going to be playing in a system and under a manager in a dressing room that fits well with them and that they're going to be getting the best out of them players. And we are getting the best out of Giles now, and we are getting the best out of what I see as McBurney. And both them two players really work well with each other. So I just think it'd be hard pressed to find a team, I think, that's going to be willing to take a punt on Giles, especially just because when he went to Middlesbrough last season, I think you kind of saw the worst out of him. And it's like everyone knows he's a really good player going forward. And like I said, he's got a wand of a left foot. He has come on really, really well defensively this season as well, I think. But I think he's been given a lot more confidence, not only with the players that are around him, but because the manager's put his faith into him as well. I know that it's not always, like I say, it's definitely not 100% the player's decision, and the club can factor into that as well, whether or not they maybe want to cash in on one of these players or something like that, if someone offers the right kind of money for it. But I think, the way that Adrian seems to come across anyways is that he seems to take the players' opinions into account. And I think both of them two players will be ones which will say they're happy here, and I think it'd be too big of a risk for them to go anywhere else. I personally don't think they'll move anywhere.
Well, I hope neither of them do. Obviously, I don't know if Matt Burney would be on people's. I know he's scoring a few goals, but as you say, his goal ratio hasn't been brilliant over his career. He's probably as much as it has been. It's probably as top here as anywhere else. And I don't think he would go. I'm a bit worried about Giles with him. Last season he seemed to want to go. I think the manager has done a lot with him to keep him here. And he's put his arm around him. He's given him his confidence because he's playing out of his skin at the moment. He's one of our best players, to be fair, this season. Last year, I think nearly everybody was wanting to get rid and quite happy when he went to Middlesbrough. So it's just a little bit worried. I don't say he will go, and I ain't saying the club would look to get rid of him. It's just a worry. I wouldn't want to lose him at the moment, the way he's playing, especially with Matt Burney. What's your thoughts, Chris?
On Giles, I don't think he's going. I think with the restrictions, the club... I know John normally comes out and says he won't stand in a player's way if they want to go. I think they'll be a bit more tougher with any approaches like they were with Hughes in the summer. And they'll have expectations around what sort of fees they want. But again, players that are happy, players that are enjoying playing for the club, playing for the manager with the teammates, and also a sixth in the table. There's potential of, don't want to jinx us, but we're playing really well. We're in the top six. We've been there or thereabouts for most of the season. Some people might, don't know what conversations having in the change room, but there'll be an expectation, or not an expectation, there'll be conversations in the dressing room of what they're hoping to achieve. And if we have the luck with injuries and things, a couple of other players possibly come in January to strengthen, then they'll want to be part of a successful squad that could be challenging for promotion. So the only players that I personally think would be looking to go will be those that are not getting minutes and have been on the fringes. So people we've spoke about Brandon Williams and Fairlong, who, they've both had their injuries. Even when they're fit, they're going to struggle to get in. With Giles playing so well, we know about the fallout apparently, although they've had conversations and made up again, but with Casey Palmer and the manager. So that's, now the two natural wingers are fit with Ndala and Joseph and Akintola that can back up. You've also got Geldart that can play there, but it frees up Geldart to play his natural 10. So will Casey Palmer get many minutes? So they're the sort of players for me that will potentially be, if they're going to let anybody go, they'll be the ones that might ask to leave, because they're not getting the minutes that they might want or feel they deserve. But yeah, Giles, McBurney, those sort of players, while they're in a team that's doing well and they're enjoying themselves, I can't see them pushing for it.
No,
unless the club comes in with silly money and they feel it's too good to turn down, and it's from a business perspective rather than a footballing perspective, I can't see decisions being made on them.
Yeah, what do you think, Jan?
Sure, no, I agree. I mean, and if you look at Jala, he's a different person. I don't just mean on the pitch, but at the end of the games, if he's gone off as a sub, his whole demeanour, he's just smiling and he's happy all the time. I can't see why. And I don't see that he would want to go away from that. And I agree with everything that Chris said. Really, I can't see any of those big hitters unless it was really stupid, silly money. Then the worrying one for me is Gelhardt, and I'm hoping that they're playing crafty here and that his injury lingers on a bit, so it's not worth transferring or recalling in January, because it's Gelhardt that worries me that if we lose him.
I don't think Leeds are going to recall him. I'd be very surprised if Leeds recalled him.
Yeah, I agree.
Frank,
it's the stacking. That's
not Frank, sorry, the manager.
Yeah, it is him. If they sack him, it's not. It's the other fella. But if they sack him, that would be the worry for me, that in case he was recalled. But from his personal point of view, again, he's happy here, isn't he? And I think that's really important.
Yeah.
I mean, he came for a lower wage. So, he's one of the few footballers that maybe ain't all about money. Well, and maybe there's more than a few. Maybe I'm being, disingenuous there. So we'll see. You can, Casey, I'm not bothered. Akintola, you can send him back for me. But there's, the big hitters, no, absolutely not. We need them.
So a question I want to throw in there is, I thought about Abu Kamara's still out on loan, isn't he? And do you think we could maybe recall him from his loan and sell him on, free up a bit of a wage slot there?
He's not playing, is he? He ain't playing much, is he?
That's what I mean. So he's not getting anything by being out on loan where he is, and surely someone either in the Championship or around League One would be willing to pay for him, even if it's only, if we lose money on him, we lose money on him. But I don't think he's got much for future here.
Portsmouth would take him back.
Yeah, I don't think he's got
they
anything.
Loved him, didn't they? They loved him.
Yeah, the way he did, I think he did quite well there for him, didn't he? But he hadn't done much for us, and I don't think he'd be a massive miss if he went. But whether anybody'd want to take the punt, I don't know. And listening
to
a John,
million?
It seems
it's something
3.5, I think.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Listening to a John, he seems to think that the players we've got coming back off injury are like new players, which he's got to be right, to be fair. Miller's not been playing much this season. The Bellumi, obviously McBurney's been out quite a while, and if Gelhardt
come back, isn't they? Yeah.
Yeah, there's a few more to come back in. So I don't know if they'll do a lot in the transfer. I know we can't do a lot, but I don't know if, there'll have to be some way around things, I think, for us to do a lot. Because I don't think we need a lot. It's more keeping the people fit than it is signing anybody. Because I think the front three in Gelhardt, and obviously we've got Joseph now starting to score a few goals. We must have a chance of still staying near that top six this season. I wouldn't think there'd be a better front three than them three with Gelhardt behind them in the division, to be honest. Maybe Coventry might argue, but we're scoring a lot of goals. It's just our defence what's let us down. So if we have to get anybody, I would imagine it might be an extra defender, if anything. But, we've still got a couple to come in if we need them. So I don't know if they're going to shell out. And I know they can't shell out anything major. So is it worth taking a punt on somebody when your club's doing really well? Is it worth it? But anyway, we'll go on to the Millwall game now. And I think, I was most surprised. I mean, I didn't actually see the game, but I was listening on radio. And a bit like Jan said, for the first 5 minutes, I thought this could be a cricket score. He's made 2 or 3 saves, and it looks as though we weren't at the races. But then next minute on the radio, we've gone down and scored a goal. And you think, where's that come from? And to be fair, I think they played really well. The conditions. It's a bad place to go, is Millwall. The fans are more or less on top of you, and the vociferous crowd, aren't they, and all that. So I think they did really well to do as well as they did. And Joseph, I don't know if he's been talking to McBurney or McBurney's been giving him a little bit of tuition somewhere, but both the goals he took was really good. The first one was very similar to McBurney's one, where he scored against Middlesbrough. Just took it on his left foot and guarded it in. I mean, I don't know where this Joseph's been, because normally he's slinging his foot at them. They're going nowhere near the goal. He runs his socks off, but he seems a different player this season, I think. Whether it's the manager, whether it's McBurney having a word with him, I don't know. But he's certainly, he seems to be that striker that they've looked for when they bought him, who'll get a few goals. Is it 6 he's got already this season? Yeah. I think it's somewhat like 6, isn't it? I know 2 or 3 of them has been a bit iffy, but them 2 finishes on Saturday was very good, and his positioning, as I say, especially for the second one, was spot on. So I just think at the moment we're looking like a team who most teams would fear playing, to be quite honest, especially if we put our best foot forward and don't get these 45-minute displays which we've had over the season. If we can keep them to 90 minutes, I can't see us losing many games this season, to be honest, because we've always got a goal threat. And that's always a positive in any game. If you go 1-0 down and you think you've got a goal threat, you're not panicking. Last season, we went 1-0 down, you thought it's a defeat. We had no goal threat, and we nearly scored as many goals this season as we scored in the whole of last season. So, and if we could, and we've, defence only let 1-0 in, so maybe they're getting a bit more sorted out, as you said, Chris, maybe a bit more working on people getting back in position and a bit more thoughtfulness in the defence. I don't know what you thought about the game, James.
Yeah, I mean, Carl Jones was on fire, and dare I say, he's tearing the Championship apart. I thought he was absolutely excellent. I think it's my favourite game that he's played in so far. I think, and like I say, he's clearly been working on his positioning in the box, because I think it helps as well that we've finally got some absolutely electric wingers running down both sides, willing to run to the byline and put balls in early for him to just finish off. I mean, that's what you want as a number 9 and as a poacher. And I think, to an extent, Joseph has suffered a little bit last season as well, where he hasn't really had the delivery to come on the end of. And I don't think he has the same kind of chemistry with Giles as what McBurney's got, because I think there's a lot of timing involved in finishing off Giles' strikes. But the real simple, I know you can say the real simple, but we've seen him miss those as well. And he's. Yeah. I think I had a look earlier, and Joseph has missed 7 big chances this season. I think that's the statistic for it. And I just thought, they're not necessarily easy finishes, but yeah, Balumi and Miller was both absolutely brilliant that first half. Balumi, I think I can't remember who commented. I think it was Bernsey during the game who was saying one of their players had to get subbed off because he was dizzy.
Yeah.
So Balumi was just absolutely unreal. They couldn't handle him, and we've missed that for so long. I think every game Balumi's played in since he's come back, he's really, really starting to now pick up his form again, and he's. Like I said, we weathered that storm for the first 5 minutes of the game, and I think, like I said, we was all a little bit nervous, but all it took was one mistake from a throw-in, and you could see how angry Alex Neil was on the touchline, because clearly he thought, this was going to be one of them games where they was probably going to get the leg up, and like I said, for the first 5 minutes, it looks like they was going to go ahead, but no, it was just fantastic. I absolutely loved it, and it was a little bit iffier in the second half. I did feel like, but obviously. They'll sit there and say certain decisions obviously went our way, like we've already talked about. There was the red card. My opinion definitely was a red card. I think there is a little bit of an argument to be made there that Joseph maybe did hold on to the player's foot. I think that's the only thing you can really pick out of it. He slightly did, but obviously Miller should have been sent off for kicking the ball away. People are saying that maybe he didn't hear the whistle and it was. The whistle literally only just gone by the time he kicked the ball. I don't know. I think he has got away with.
To be fair, that's right, but I still think he had it. Yeah. But that it did. It was the timing was He
got away with it, but I think you can say the ref probably uses common sense during the game. That, like you say, it was so quick after the whistle went that he just let it go. I've also seen them saying that for our third goal. There was a foul in the middle of the pitch and that Gavin Ward never pulled them up on that. Well, we've been on the receiving end of some absolutely honking Gavin Ward decisions in the past as well. So it's about time he did us a favour, to be honest.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on it, Chris?
Similar. First 5 minutes, from a neutral's perspective, what a game. But yeah, for the first 5 minutes, I was a bit worried. They came out and I just thought Middlesbrough again. But yeah, they weathered the storm. Pando made some great saves. And then, the 2 goals in quick succession. And after that, again, like the Wrexham game, on the whole, consider it was an away game, we had an awful amount of control of the game, limited them having the ball where we wanted them to, structurally got set up, got people back to defend. And it was really good. And on Joseph, I think it was his second goal. It was a mirror image of McBurney's, where he started his run to the back post, and just as the ball came in, he attacked the space at the front. So I think it's Baz Cooper that's reported that, apparently Joseph's been talking to him and asking for, advice and a bit of, if you want to call it coaching or tuition, to help him with his game. And, it looks like it's coming off because, both of those goals were great goals. And again, I just love to see what the wingers are doing, because when you get behind the defence and get the ball in before they've had a chance to get themselves set, you've got a better chance of attacking the ball and scoring a goal. And again, like I think it was James just said, or it might have been you, Paul, last season it was different. The play was maybe a bit slower in the build-up. So even if you did get behind the back four, the defence had sort of recovered a bit and tracked the runners or picked up a man. So Joseph didn't necessarily have those chances, which he likes to do as a, if you want to call him a poacher. But yeah, another really good performance. Slater was fantastic again. And again, I think both games, I don't think you could say any player was lower than a 6 or a 7. Maybe a lot of them probably higher, but yeah, just another great team performance where they played for each other, and the togetherness, after the game when you saw them go up to the fans was, amazing. So, that one defeat, the dismal 45 minutes against Middlesbrough, they've put it behind them. It's forgotten,
definitely.
Two really good performances, and it's a cliche, isn't it? But it's a marathon, not a sprint. So yeah, forget that 45 minutes, that one game. It's done. It's just stayed. Can't control it anymore. But what can we do? It's the next game in front of us.
Yeah, I mean, Balumi, to be fair, he's on fire at the moment. I think most fullbacks won't want to face Balumi at the moment. And I would imagine Miller will be the same once he gets up to full speed. Balumi, he turns him inside out. I can see why I said it was dizzy. He's just that type of winger. He just comes in and goes back, and they just can't cope with him. I think the same against Wrexham. They struggle to cope with him, and I think he'll only get better, to be quite honest, because he still won't be 100% fit. He's not been back that long. He's not had that many minutes. So, it's just frightening to think how good he could be, to be quite honest. And, the forwards should be getting a fair few goals this season. What did you think to the Millwall game? Because you was there, Jan, weren't you?
Well, as I said, the first 5 minutes, I thought I was going to be a nervous wreck by half time, because our end was full. And actually, I don't think they were particularly, apart from that first bit, and then when they scored their goal, it was pretty quiet there as well. It wasn't as rowdy as it normally is at Millwall. I just thought, to a man, we really, everybody put in an absolute shift. I mean, I'm a big Kyle Joseph fan anyway. I was so pleased for the lad. And actually, he's probably playing where he should be playing, rather than, we've made him into kind of a winger, haven't we, because of his press and because of needs must. But I was just so pleased for the lad. And actually, Slater could have had one. Joseph could have had another one as well. There was some, cracking efforts. You can't fault them at all, really. As I say, I want 100% with the second lot of subs, but it worked out fine in the end, didn't it?
What did you all think of Amir's performance? Because I know he started deeper with Slater and Crooks at the 8, but they seemed to interchange quite a bit. And when Crooks dropped back to sometimes get possession and help calm things down, he seemed to drift forward. And he had a hand in the second goal, didn't he, when he sprayed it out to Miller? But yeah, I was quite surprised to see him up there on the edge of their box quite a bit.
I was surprised.
To be fair to him, I think he's come a little bit like a few of them, to be fair. Maybe not 100% fit, and also obviously not knowing this league probably at all. And we all know the Championship, it's relentless, isn't it? You've got the best teams have players who've played in the Championship quite a number of years. They're strong, they know what they're doing. I think this is going against him here, because obviously he hasn't had that sort of Championship experience. I think he's quite neat and tidy. It seems to like a lot of time on the ball, but I think there is a player in there. I think Adrian said it last week. I think he just needs time, to adjust himself. And sometimes, even Premiership players have taken a season to get to the full sort of grips with the Premiership. And I think the same in the Championship, because I think it is a very hard league. There's a lot, I think, especially this year, apart from the top two, maybe, the rest of the teams are much of a muchness. there isn't a lot between them. And I think this is probably why we've stayed up there with the team we've had out a lot of weeks, because there is nobody who is really outstanding apart from the top two. And I think, getting used to that isn't easy when you're coming from another place. There isn't anybody sort of like when they had all these foreign players coming before, there was a lot come together, weren't they? But me is probably the only one in it at the moment, I would say, to be honest, who's,
him and
that
Akintola,
sort of
maybe.
part,
Yeah.
Akintola maybe, yeah. But two of them, it's not a lot. I think before we had about 6 or 7, didn't we? So it's going to take time. I think there is a player there. Whether he's good, whether he's going to be good enough for the championship, I think remains to be seen. But I think there is a player there. He's got a good touch. I think he needs to get up to the pace of it a little bit. But I don't think he did that badly on Saturday. I don't think he did that badly against Wrexham, to be fair. I think, so maybe he's going to a slow burner a little bit. I don't know. But he certainly hasn't been a letdown like he has been on some of the other games when he's been.
No,
really
I'd agree. I mean, the other thing as well, I mean, I'm not a massive fan of his or David Akintola, but I think Sergio wanted him, didn't he? He's obviously knows the Moors watched him. So I think you've got to sort of, given that everything else that he seems to have got right, you've got to trust in him. And maybe as you say, it's going to take a bit longer. I'm not sure he'll get in the team once Lundstrom's fit, but
no, well, I don't think he will. But he'll probably come off the bench, won't he?
Yeah, we need a squad, don't we? Yeah.
And
then it's another month or two, and hopefully we'll have Matazo fit. And it's going to be even harder for him to get minutes.
He did look better going forward, like you say. I thought it was one of his better performances for us in the past few weeks, and he seemed to want to get involved in the game a little bit more. Maybe we've been playing him a little bit wrong because he's been kind of being used as a pivot, hasn't he? And I don't think we've maybe used him as much in a box-to-box role as a number 8. So I did think he did quite well in the first half against Millwall, like you say, Chris.
Yeah, I think Crooks is playing well, isn't he? I mean, I don't know what his injury is, but it doesn't seem to be stopping him doing a lot. Because I think over the last 3 or 4 games, he's been excellent. He really has. He's put himself about, makes challenges. All right, he might make 1 or 2 foul challenges, we know that. But that's the player he is, isn't he? But he sort of controls the game quite well. And I think he's been excellent the last 2 or 3 games. And Slater as well. I mean, he gets a lot of hassle, does Slater. If he has a bad game, you can forget about the 10 good games he's had. All the people think about is the bad game.
He was man of the match for Wrexham for me.
Yeah, he's played really well as Slater. £50,000 in his, what is it, 150 or 200 games he played for City?
200, yeah.
It's a ridiculous amount of money, isn't it, for a player? And he always puts his heart and soul in. Yeah, he's maybe not the best player in the team, but he certainly works hard. And I think him and Coyle both are 2 stalwarts of the team. In there, I know they get loads of hassle. To me, with them type of players, we wouldn't do half as good because they're always there. On a bad day, they'll always put themselves into the game and try their best. They don't sort of take the foot off the gas. And I'm glad he's getting a few plaudits later because I think he has played really well recently. As you said, the midfield's play seems to be gelling a bit better. Obviously we've got Lundstrom to come back and Matazo. It can only get better, surely. I don't know. I can't see us getting any worse than we've been doing, to be quite honest. We've got, is it 35 points? Is it now 34, 35 points? Which is it, two games to go, West Brom and Sheff Wednesday. That's the halfway stage, isn't it? And they say about 74, 75 points gets you in the top 6. Well, there's nothing to say we can't hit that amount. Especially
Let's go for 50 first. Let's be safe.
Yeah, the 50 is the first one. I always say that, get to safety. But if we can get to safety, say by the end of January, could we? Possibly, I think. I don't know how many games there is. Maybe middle of February, then kick on in end of February, March and April. Who's to say where we could end up? I don't know if I really want us to go up, to be quite honest, because I think the squad at the moment is doing well, but I don't think they're a Premiership squad.
No, they're not.
I worry about Adjon getting his money and thinking, I'm going to blow all this on top quality players, and we come down straight away, which I won't really want to happen. But if they do well enough to get in the top 6 and get up, good luck to them. That's what I say, because they'll have done it on their effort, won't they, to get there. But as I say, I could see us getting in the top 6, and it worries me a little bit. I know that sounds stupid, doesn't it? But I just worry about us getting in the Premiership if we got in the top 6 and it could happen, I think, this season, because we have got our strongest team coming together now than we've had probably all season. And even the players who, like you, Joseph, who wasn't doing that well goal scoring wise, he seems to have come on leaps and bounds just recently. So I don't know. I don't know what you think, James, about this top six business.
Yeah, well, as things stand, we'd currently be playing Preston if the playoffs were to happen tomorrow. So I think they're out of the teams that are up there. They're the ones I'd want to play sort of
I agree.
the least.
I'd rather play them.
You'd rather play Preston than it's fair. Ipswich are in there, but I have a sneaky feeling they're probably going to be fighting for that top 2 spot with Middlesbrough. So I don't know. I think I wouldn't choose any of them, to be honest with you. I mean, obviously we've beaten Millwall, but Preston, I just think they don't concede many goals, and the teams that do seem to score a lot of goals, they play quite well against. So I just feel like we'd struggle, especially in a playoff semi-final against them. But I don't know. I mean, it's like I say, you don't want to get too carried away, because it's really quite. I mean, it's not as tight anymore as it was a couple of weeks ago, where sort of between, I think it was like 3rd and like 15th or something, there was only like 4 points separating those places. I mean, now the lowest position that could actually go above us is QPR in 9th. So a gap is starting to open up a little bit more. We're on the top end of the table. So, like I say, we've been in and around it all season. I don't see any reason why we couldn't. And I do think, like I say, if we got promoted, if Adrian can, it depends if someone can maybe just put a bit of a leash on him, I think. I mean, obviously we want to spend a little bit of money so we at least stand a chance and we don't get steamrolled every week. But I also don't want to do like what Luton did, where they just went up and kind of didn't spend any money and then come straight back down because their team spirit's absolutely on the floor because they've been hammered every single week, and then they went straight back down to League One. I'd quite like him, to be honest, to not only invest in the team, but maybe invest in the facilities as well, because the Allams never invested in the training ground, and I think we need a bit of a lick of pain in a few areas of our facilities, and that the money we receive from being in the Premier League could really do go leaps and bounds for helping those facilities. And I think people do forget that training grounds and things like that do also help you attract a higher caliber of player to your club. So all these things can help us in the future.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on maybe making the top 6, Chris?
Just to come back on a couple of James's points, training ground, they have spent money on it on the last few years.
Yeah,
they've upgraded the pitch.
It's just on the inside, though, isn't it? I think.
But ultimately, it's still containers. So yeah, I would like to see them develop that. But if I'm correct, I think if we are going to get promoted, this year is the best year to do it. In the fact that we haven't been allowed to spend any money. So based on financial fair play, and it's a rolling 3 years, the transfer situation we're in this season is the 3rd of 3 successive years. So what we've spent the 2 years before and this year is how financial fair play is calculated. And that's one of the reasons why we got in the trouble, as well as the Aston Villa turmoil. But the 3 previous years worth of spending has accumulated in what the decision was. So we've got a year where there's no spend on transfers, only the transfers that we sold last summer, granted only a couple of them. So on that balance book, we're actually in the green. So if we go up this summer, then our rolling 3 years is going to look quite positive, and it would allow him to spend money and give you a fighting chance to stay up. If we stay down this year, spend money in the summer, maybe trying to get Lundstrom permanently, he's obviously going to, try and strengthen other areas of the club. We know he likes to bring in new players. That's another year then when you've got spends, and although this year will be still a zero, it's not going to be as positive, I don't think, looking at it from a financial play angle. So I'm with you, Paul. I like the winning feeling. I would hate us to go up, to get steamrolled all the time and lose every week. And I know Luton, it was a fantastic story, wasn't it? But I think they had to spend money on their facilities and infrastructure to meet the Premier League minimum standard, so they couldn't spend an awful lot of money on players. And in essence, that's probably better for the longevity of the club, improving the ground and stuff. So yeah, you know, if we're in and around it, you know, in a couple of months' time, then you know you're only dreaming more, aren't you? So,
You are, yeah, that's the trouble.
I mean, ultimately, it is the glory land. It's what a Jun wants. So, like I say, I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever if we see a few players leave in January just to free up some wages so we can get a few more players in that'll be challenging for first 11. I think the manager said on I don't know if it's with, like the midweek interview with BBC a couple of weeks ago, he was targeting a goalkeeper and an attacking midfielder. Don't know if that's the right places. Again, you'd probably see someone having to go out to come in because of the restrictions. So again, is it like for like? Is it Casey Palmer going to bring in another number 10? But I mean, who would have to go out to bring a goalkeeper? Because ideally, you probably want 3 challenging in case there's an injury or anything. And I really liked Timmy Lottatala, who was out at Doncaster. So hopefully he comes back after his loan, you know, a better player as well. But obviously they're not going to recall him in January because of the restrictions. So I don't know what they do in January. But yeah, promotion-wise, I think it's probably a good year to go up if we're going to.
Well, if financially it is, you know, it might be. I mean, I don't. Obviously, I say I don't want us to go. I just worry about it, you know, that we do a sort of Luton, you know, something like that, and it's a bit of a worry. That's all, especially with the Jun where money's concerned. He seems to get it in his hand and he wants to spend it.
Yeah,
The best thing that's happened is he hasn't been able to spend anything.
Like James said, I think with the people that are in the positions now, Dublin and Yorksey and what have you, I think, you know, they maybe do have a bit of a stronger influence on him. I think they're ganging up on him, maybe. But yeah, and hopefully they've learnt the lessons from these restrictions. Like they've got to, you know, be a bit more sensible. And it's not just you know, it's not supermarket sweep and you can put whatever you want in your trolley. So,
what do you think, Jan?
What do I think?
Sorry, James.
I'm kind of with you, Paul, in so much as, yeah, we all want to go there. We all loved it, didn't we? If you're in it, you want to win it. But it was no fun, was it, getting stuffed every week? I mean, we need to have learned, I think, that we used to raise our games against the big clubs and then get beaten against the ones that actually we needed to beat. So hopefully, sort of one part of me thinks, I do think, fingers crossed, we've got the structures in place that will stop us spending money and wasting money like we have in the past. The other part of it kind of is that we need to know that you've got to beat the teams around you in that little mini league at the bottom, because that's what we didn't do in any time. We didn't beat the ones around us. So for me, that's really important. I mean, we were chatting last night. We were at the quiz night last night about whether we wanted to go up or not, and we were saying you can't go up and spend madly. You need to do a bit of both. You need to spend sensibly, but equally, you do need to invest in the facilities. And I do think, you know, we'll go back to the council. I think the council have let the club down big time. You know, surely they would want a Premier League football team, and they would want, but it just never ever seems to happen. And I don't blame anybody, be it the Alams, be it Ajan or anybody. I wouldn't be investing in something that I didn't earn, or I didn't have the capacity to earn, or I didn't have some say in, or something like that. So I kind of get it. So I don't know. It's a nice feeling knowing that you go every week and you've got a chance of winning. It ain't like that in the Premier League, is it? It's just not.
Usually, no. What was you going to say, James? Sorry.
I was only going to say, I mean, surely Sunderland are the example where any Championship team prospectively thinking about going up can dream a little bit better of, you know, what the Premier League could be like if you get it right. You know, if you spend your money wisely, if you've got a good gaffer, and, you know, you don't just roll over for the big boys in the league and also the teams that are around you. Because bearing in mind, I mean, basically any of the teams sort of even in the bottom half of the Premier League are going to be, you know, at least 4 or 5 times better than most Championship teams have go up because of I mean, most of them teams have been in the league for at least 4 or 5 seasons. So the amount of money they will have had over that time cumulatively means they've been able to invest so much in their squads and, like I said, their infrastructure and all those bits and pieces. But Sunderland have gone up there this season and you know, tossing it up at the top of the table with the sort of best in the league, fighting for what, by the looks of it at the moment, looks like a European place. And they've just beat, I know it was only an own goal, but they've just beat Newcastle. So, I mean, anything, if it makes me feel a little bit more confident that anything actually could happen if you just are a little bit wiser about the way you spend the money up there. And I mean, you know, like you look at Ipswich as a bit of an example where even if you spend £200 million and you buy all the best roster out of the Championship,
it's not good enough.
No, because all you're doing is putting together a team of individuals, and they tore up the team spirit that they had, and you know, an actual chemistry that they had for all them divisions. And I know some of the players weren't quality enough to cut it in the Premier League. That's completely fair enough. But I think when you just completely tear up your squad sheet like that and just bring in all the best players from the Championship, it's showing this season that it doesn't work really that well. They should be miles higher than they are. They're massively underachieving. So I just think Adrian, as long as that team behind him, like you say, that your Martin Yokes and your no, it's Mustafa, isn't it? And Mustafa, Martin Hodges and Jared. I just hope that team behind him has got the brains there, which now actually could be seen as the brain team for a change. I just really hope they get it right if we go up there.
I think the summer we've just had. I was just going to say the summer we just had just backs up what you've just said, James.
Yeah.
With shrewd investment, with the right signings, like Sunderland have done, with them three, you know, hopefully keeping a Jun in check, but making shrewd signings. You know, some of the players we've brought in over the summer on frees, and you know, I ain't going to say we're going to persuade Real Madrid to let us have Mbappe for free, you know, with a 50% sell-on clause like they've done with Darko. Yeah, but like they did with Darko Jarbi, and did they do it with, I can't remember, Akintola, was it the other they did that with? But yeah, there's certainly some brains there and some thought going into the transfer. So like I said, if we did go up, you know, some smart signings, you give yourself a fighting chance, don't you?
I think we need to make sure we can fill the stadium, because if you go back to Sunderland, even in League One, they were getting 30,000 there every week. You know, and when you think, you know, the teams that are around that area, you know, you've still got Middlesbrough, you've still got Newcastle, and you've got the smaller clubs. You know, they will always fill that stadium out, and it's quite an intimidating place to go. Whereas the MKM's not intimidating, even on, well, very rarely is it? So
I don't think we attract those kind of fans.
Sunderland. You know, but you know, I mean, I'm really happy with this season. You know, I really am. It couldn't have gone any better for me, realistically. I mean, when you start at the beginning of the season, you think, well, it looks as though we're going to be in League One. We're lucky to win a game, to be in the top six.
Absolutely.
And, you know, as I say, getting our best players back, well, so-called best players back, it surely can only get better. And that's the worry, because being better, we're going to be in the top six then. But anyway, we'll talk about this Saturday's game against West Bromwich Albion. And we don't seem to have a magically good record against them, do we? They always seem to sneak it somehow. And it's a bit of a worry. They're not on the best of form. We know the old Hull City, whether it's this new Hull City, if a team was on bad form, we'd think, well, we better give them 3 points because they aren't doing that well. And we wouldn't turn up. Hopefully it doesn't happen this weekend. I think we can win it, to be quite honest. I don't think there was a bad team, West Brom. Don't get me wrong. I think they're a hard team to beat. But I think we've got a good chance of winning it. I don't know what you think, James.
I've got to say, I feel a little bit for Ryan Mason, because obviously he's an ex-City player, and I think you'd be hard pressed to find a City fan who in the summer might not have actually considered wanting him in our own club. So the way it's gone for him at West Brom is a little bit sad, obviously. But I mean, it's an hard game, it's football, and that's just what it is. It's football. So I mean, I've had a look at a few of the stats, and it seems to look like against the teams that have a little bit more attacking threat, they don't do as well against. And their past 5 games, they've won 2, drawn 1, and lost 2. And the games that they've won were the teams around them. So actually Swansea and Sheffield United. But then they lost to QPR and Southampton, who are both really good attacking teams at the moment. So, like I said, I think we really stand a very good fighting chance against these. And it seems like Ryan Mason's on a bit of thin ice. So whether or not this will be maybe the icing on the cake for him and he loses his job after this game, I guess we'll find out. But they've got that Hegebo up front, who's actually got the exact same stats as McBurney for this season. So he's got 8 goals and 11 goal involvements in total. So that's he's got 3 assists as well. So he's obviously going to be their main threat against us. They've still got Mikey Johnston, who I think is probably still widely regarded as one of the highest rated players in the league. So they've still got a lot of quality in that team. It's hardly like, you know, they're just because they're sort of in the lower ends of the league. I think that's more of a reflection on maybe the manager than it is the team itself. So they're always going to be a threat because obviously not that long ago there was a Premier League team and they've had quite a bit of money through the years. And I think they got recently taken over as well, didn't they? So, you know, but again, we've just got to play our stuff. If, like I say, the past 2 game plans have worked where we've had a lot more control in midfield. Our wing play has been really good, and if we can finish our chances, I don't see why this couldn't be an high-scoring game, to be honest. I think there's going to be goals in it, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Chris, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, similar. They've got a couple of good players that James has mentioned. They seem to be the danger men. The form is indifferent. They seem to be playing better at home than away. So because of the takeover and the pressure on the manager, well, there's the pressure on the manager there, but because of the rumblings that's been going on for a while, I wonder if, similar to like how our players were with Volta last year, that if the players are not behind him and they're sensing, you know, if they don't like his tactics or he plays, they're not giving their all, it could be a really great time to play them, where they're not giving it everything and we could really turn them over. But that said, if that isn't the case and they are backing the manager, you know, they're going to be at it. And again, I think there's goals in it. I do think we edge it if we play to our strengths, and everybody's, you know, I haven't heard anything this week about any injuries or anything, but so if we've got the same sort of team that we've had from last week, it's 2 games with a full week's rest, more training, you know, possibly more work on defensive stability, you know, at home, I think we've got a really good chance. And this I don't know if it's my head or my heart, but I'm saying 2-0.
Right. What about you, Jan?
Well, I was just going to say I'm going to do a head and a heart one. I mean, my heart tells me that we should win. I mean, I was going to say the same as Chris said, that their away record isn't very good, but they're, you know, typical Hull City, we'll be the ones that will spoil that for them and let them win. I worry that we haven't got Shemi. He's faster than Egan, and I think he's still the calming influence. I think Egan is as well, but I just think Shemi's got that bit more pace than Egan. But no, I too feel for Ryan, you know, Mason. He was one of the ones that the Boo Boys had a go at City when he first came, and then they all changed, didn't they? So, but no, I'm going for a City. I'm going for a City win. I refuse to do anything other. And on the current form, we should be able to do it, particularly with their away record is poorer than their home record. So,
apart from Adey, then would you make any other changes? Anybody?
I won't play David Akintola.
Do we think Joseph keeps McBurney out of the team, keeps his place?
I think they're still nurturing him back in. I don't know whether I'm a million miles off there. I just think
I'd keep Joseph in, yeah. Stay keeping the number 9.
Yeah, I think you might be right. I think Jan might be right. I mean, we've seen it before, haven't we? Players, they get another injury straight away, and you're thinking, why don't you just leave it a couple more games? And seems to be doing the right thing. And to be fair, Matt Bainey just comes on and scores, doesn't he? So it doesn't really matter when you play, whether you play him, he comes on and scores.
I think Baz said that it feels like there's less pressure on Joseph to score now because now he's not being the only one depended on to finish them chances, and he knows that even if he misses a couple in the game, we've always got Ollie Matt to come off the bench and score one anyways. So maybe that's why he's playing with a little bit more freedom at the minute.
Yeah. So would you make any other changes? So you keep Joseph then in the team?
I think if Miller and Bellumi start, then yeah, I'm happy to keep Joseph up top because
I don't know whether I play Jarby in the middle, you know, instead of Amir.
I thought it was hard done by to get dropped after Wrexham.
I did. I was just going to say, I think I felt for him on Saturday. A good game.
I think that's the other. He seems to be rotating them two, don't he? One of them starts and one of them comes off with 30 minutes so to go, unless they're ripped off at half time. But Jarby and Amir seem to be the ones that interchange, you know, because he likes to have some rotation. But yeah, I think apart from the Egan one, if Miller and Bellumi are fit and starting, then I'd be more than happy for Joseph to start, just because they've got a goal threat and that creative spark in them as well.
Yeah, and you don't want McBenney getting another injury, do we? I mean,
Absolutely not.
realistically, we've got a lot of January is a busy month. Well, over Christmas and January is busy times. Want them all to stay fit. And if he pulls them in and out the squad, I'm not against that, to be honest. As long as they put the effort in when they're in the squad, when they're playing, and if they're out of it, well, the other player puts the effort in, and that's what it's about. And we know we're going to get it off Joseph. Do 100% effort. He'll chase everything down. And at the moment, he's on fire, isn't he? So why would you risk McBurney and just bring him on for the last half hour or so, which he sort of has been doing? So, I'm with you. I think, we'll probably keep the same team, and hopefully get a win. I don't know. I said West Brom always, one of them teams that I always think we struggle against. I don't know why. That's a bit of a bogey team, but they haven't been doing that well this season. And I feel a bit sorry for Ryan Mason because he had that terrible injury, didn't he? And he's not getting. He's come to a club who probably would be thinking about getting to near the top of the league. There was always in about the top 6, weren't they, for long enough? And maybe they're looking at that. They should be there. You can't always get people, places where you want to be. You've got to wait a little bit, and I think you've got to give people time. And he maybe just needs that bit of time, but maybe they're not going to give him it. And if the players are happy with him or think he's going, as you say, Chris, they're maybe not going to be playing for him. So, but hopefully, another 3 points gets us up to about 37, does it? Well on target for that 70 odd points, which would probably get us in the playoffs. So,
be a nice early Christmas present.
It would be, wouldn't it? Yeah, it's our last home game of the year, isn't it? So, hopefully 3 points. It's been a better year at home than it happened the year before. Was it 3 wins in a full year or something? It's been a lot better this year. So hopefully onwards and upwards. But I think we've nearly timed out. I think he said, we've got about a minute left. Anybody else anything to say? No?
No, I don't think so.
No, well, Joe's ready and waiting. So what we'll do is, thanks very much for coming on. Obviously, the best host in the world will be back next week, hopefully, when he's got over his sickness bug. But, thanks for coming tonight, you three, and hopefully we'll see each other next week, and Adrian will be back with us as well. And I must mention the Car Must Go again, thecarmustgo.co.uk. Get in touch with them if you want to sell your car or your van, or you want to buy a car or a van. Thanks for sponsoring us, much appreciated. It keeps us on the straight and narrow. So we'll see everybody next week at 7 o'clock, as I say, with man host Adrian.
Can I just say, are we doing it on Christmas Eve?
I would think so, yeah. I can't see why not.
Okay.
If you're all available,
get your baubles ready, Jan.
Well, I'll have my baubles, don't you worry.
Yes, get your baubles. Right, thanks for joining me tonight, and I'll see you next week. Bye.
Sagas.